All right, so we have just finished watching UFC Fight Night London, a great card. Probably one of the better cards that we're going to see this year. And coming in, joining me are first Dr. Evil Genius, who had hosted the
Kenny is back. He was on the show last Monday. Let's have him back on again.
Oh shit!
A lot of echo from you. And while he gets that figured out, also joined us, who you probably should know. If you don't, welcome.
If you
Anna
don't
Rudgaard.
know, now you know.
So since Anna, this is meant to be a post-fight discussion, but I did want to get this video and get Anna Rude's thoughts. So before we jump into the UFC stuff, since we're mixing topics here, I'm going to share this video made by Mr. Dr. Evil Genius himself. And
I just have one thing to say, which
Sure.
is I definitely won't have time to both watch the video and have any type of discussion on it. Do you think we could table this for some other day, maybe after the next fight?
Sure can. In that case, while you're still here, what did you think about the fights?
Of the half that I did watch, I thought they were very compelling. It was very interesting. I love the card. I'll go back and watch the rest of them if I have time.
Awesome.
Yeah, in my opinion, it was a fight card that had no snoozers. Usually there's at least one when you're like, shit, I should have went and took a piss on this one. There was none of that. Every fight was compelling for one reason or another. There were a lot of storylines created with these fights. Man, I cannot wait to see the fallout from this.
Yeah, I think so many of these guys, maybe they weren't the hugest fighters, but I think because of the fact that they were all together on the fight. They were these the UK fighters, all that stuff. I think it really came in and gave them a little extra bump. So each one of them kind of got a little extra. No?
Yeah.
I think that home field advantage.
I mean, we had one piece of controversy on one judge's scorecard in a fight where the hometown girl very clearly lost the first two rounds, won the third round, and it was very clear that judge wasn't watching the fight at all. Which is one of the things I really feel very thankful about, the fact that most of these fighters did not leave it to the judges. I think only 2 fights went the full distance. One of the judges was smoking crack, playing Candy Crush. I don't know what they were doing. They weren't watching the fight. But thankfully, the proper fighter did win. They won via split decision. That was not a split decision victory, though. So.
Yeah, I didn't see that fight. That was right before I was on my way home, and but I think it's it's one of, from what I understand, it's one of those fights where there's an aspect of like you said, the judge simply not paying attention, and if it had gone the other way, we might have just said it was a hometown thing. But it really does speak to the fact that the judges just are not held accountable for anything.
But the thing is that like it didn't factor into the outcome. So there was nothing where you had to like question whether the right fighter won. There weren't any late stoppages. There weren't any early stoppages. These were definitive victories.
All of them. Yeah. How many decisions did we even go to?
I think it was just 2.
I think, it was like 2, maybe 3, and all of them were, not, they weren't controversial. They were all like 30-27. We saw some 30-26.
No eye pokes, no low blows.
That's a good point too.
We had one guy grab the cage, but then he got separated from his consciousness. So,
yeah, I mean, I wish there was a better way to regulate that type of when you're grabbing the cage on a takedown, and like I think it should be more common that if you grab the cage on a takedown and somebody and stops the takedown, then you should end up they should stop the fight and you should be on your back. And
No, that's what normally happens. I just don't think that the referee saw
they
it.
just don't ever do it.
No, I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen where they where a guy grabs the fence, and then they put the guy in his guard. They take him. They stop it. They put the guy on his back. The takedown was stopped by you grabbing the cage. I've seen that happen before. It's very rare, but I've seen it happen before.
All right, gang. I have to head out, so thank you for having me on Lutch, even for just a couple of minutes. I have to head out.
No problem.
Honor the Guard of the Dialectic. Watch my latest video on Disney Pixar movies. And Lutch will have the link, most likely.
See you. Definitely will. I'll put that in as soon as
We'll see you later, Anna Rude.
Peace
Bye.
out, brother.
Yeah.
And then there were two.
And then there were two.
So I am gonna keep this. I made the thumbnail and everything, so I am gonna go through your video. Do you have the time to at least go through it and maybe hear my thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have time for that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah,
because I think it would be really cool. Because I think that you and I think it resonated with you in a way that I kind of sort of expected. It wasn't. But I knew that the delivery was effective when I saw your reaction to it, and I think that I mean, we'll let the video speak for itself.
All right, let's do it.
Welcome back. Dr. Evil here, representing the Talk.
Oh, come on. Come on. Yeah, it's already.
Come on.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it
Struggle
looks like I worship the devil. Damn, son.
Really?
Theme of today's video, the question that we're asking is, what is the red pill? A couple weeks ago, I did a live stream with Louis Rossman on his live stream channel, and somebody in his comment section asked me if I was red pilled, and they asked me what my definition of it was. So I think that it is a. Oh, by the way, I point out that I'm wearing a Kill Switch Engage T-shirt there. By the way,
Again? Yeah.
remember you talking about the Coheed thing, right?
Yep.
And I was telling you that. There you go.
The one time he's not wearing a Coheed shirt. I was gonna say if you have something to say that you want me to pause, just let me know. But I guess we figured that out.
Well, I guess in modern popular culture, it is, I guess, the way that a lot of guys or a lot of detractors look at it as, men understanding female nature. That's not what it is. It might be covered. I don't talk like this. He's got it at 1.5 speed. Being red pilled is, but that's not what the red pill is. If you want to take it back to the Matrix, where the phrase was first coined, you had a choice of a red pill and a blue pill.
For fuck's sake! For fuck's sake!
And you also have a choice between buffering and buffering.
I mean, I pay for the highest level of internet that
in the blue pill, he'd wake up, it's like nothing ever happened. Everything, reality as he knew it, would remain exactly the way it is, unchallenged. But if you took the red pill, down you go the rabbit hole. In this context, what they're saying is a lot of your dearly held beliefs are about to be challenged. A lot of the things that you think are true, you're going to find them to be untrue. Reality is not as you perceive it to be. And what you do with that information, once you have it, is up to you. So, in the context of how it is being used mostly in society today, they look at it as, well, we believe that women were infallible, women don't lie, women don't cheat. Women are these perfect, sweet creatures that men, take advantage of and take for granted and abuse, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you become red pilled, you find out that women are no different than anybody else. They're just human beings. They make mistakes. Sometimes their intentions are not pure. Sometimes they will take advantage of the perception of purity, and they will use it for their own gain. And sometimes it might be at the expense of others.
Preach.
Now, these are traits that we normally associate with men, but in reality, that's not really what it is. And when you talk about the concept of red pill rage, it is the loss of a dearly held belief. When you find out that everything that you thought to be true isn't true. It has really nothing to do with female nature. It's about understanding.
And actually, I want to stop it there because that I think we were talking a little bit, and that really was the main line that really underlined the whole thing. And because I do think that, you know, people think of red pill manosphere stuff as, you know, dating and that kind of stuff. And
can I point out something?
Please.
It was a feminist that coined the term.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was a woman that like did documentaries, and she set out to mock men's rights activists. Her profession, so she went into it with an agenda which actually went counter to her ethos as what did she call herself? She called herself a documentarian or something like that. And so she stopped assigning motives to the things that the men were saying. And then she just started just listening to what they were saying. Mm-hmm. And then looking at the statistics and then seeing if the statistics matched up with the perception. So she went in there looking to poke fun at these guys and incels and all this other stuff, right? But then she ended up making a red pill because it was a red pill moment for her. She went in there with a perception that all men's rights activists just want to EPAR and violate women, and they don't want women to have any rights or anything like that. But then when she actually listened to what they were saying, she had to change her worldview. So for her, listening to what they were actually saying and then matching that up with actual reality, not just perceived reality, the way she perceived it, but not the way she thought it was or the way she wanted to be, but things, how they actually are. Mm-hmm. That's why she titled her documentary, The Red Pill. That's why she titled it that.
You were talking about this whole time, and I wasn't sure what you're talking about. But I've seen the Red Pill, and I've also seen the documentary about the girl making the red pill who thought the whole thing you were talking about. Yeah. And so, you let me know if it's better to answer this question just by letting the video roll, or if you want to address this. But again, specifically the aspect of the red pill being about beliefs that you have that you find that you come to realize are not true. And where do you think, or why do you think that has colloquially become, you know, when we talk about the red pill, has become so closely tied to dating and sex and women and all that stuff, when yes, that has a big part of it, but that's not really what we're doing, right? I mean, is that, would you?
Well, I just mentioned how the woman set out to make a documentary on these guys who are complaining about these kinds of things. They're complaining about, issues that they're having with women in dating. They're complaining about the issues that they're having in family court and divorce court and criminal court in greater society. And so for her, it was a red pill moment for her. She had to go down the rabbit hole and then find that everything that she thought was a certain way wasn't that way. So because of the subject matter that she was covering in that documentary, I believe that is why it was tied so closely to that. Because
Gotcha.
A lot of the problems that men are having in society are the interpersonal issues are sexual in nature. You know, what happens in divorce? That comes as a result of interpersonal relationships with women. What happens to your kids? Alimony, child support. Women, changing your name from Tom in accounting to Foodie Date. You know, a lot of these things where a lot of the assumptions of how, women are morally superior to men, a lot of these assumptions come from men's interaction with women in the one way that I think most people think is most important, which is what normally leads to the next generation being born, which is intimate interactions between the sexes.
Interesting. So I want to play the rest of this, but while we're playing it, the question that I want on everybody's mind is how, yes, dating and sexuality and family and all of that kind of stuff is extremely relevant with this stuff, but how that is only one side of the coin, and the relevance of that is only reflective of how relevant it is to each one of us. And so that's what I just want to keep in mind as we continue here. We're not too much longer, but
the nature of reality, observable reality, the world that we live in. That's what it is. I'll give you an example. Of a situation where somebody becomes red pill. Somebody that I knew, they lost a parent in death. And they've always had a tight-knit, close family. But after their parent died, they got to see a different side of a family member that they had a lot of trust in, a family member that they felt close to. And they were really upset when they were telling me the story about how, this fight over assets and who gets what and what percentage. Something that, she didn't really believe that this family member would be capable of. Face is red, tears streaming down her face, voice shaky. She was having a red pill moment.
And so, Dr. Evil Genius, do you want to speak to, again, what we were just saying, how, yes, dating, sex, all that stuff is relevant to this stuff. But what what you just talked about in this video is so much more directly relevant to the red pill and red pill thinking about, your understanding of reality and a diversion from that versus just, oh, this is what women are. Da, 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 da.
Right.
Could you speak to that a little bit?
Right. And, it's, how a lot of people get really upset with their relatives or family members, however you want to identify them. They get really upset because their expectations are so high. If you bump into somebody in the street and they don't say, excuse me, you don't really get as angry as if somebody that you are close to is rude in such fashion, because you expect more out of them. And when somebody doesn't live up to your expectations, that's a red pill moment. That's just what it is. We talk about fights all the time, you and I, right? And
Yeah, we do.
We look at the skill levels of certain fighters, and we have this expectation that they're going to execute such game plan. They're going to do this. People bet on the fights because they swear they know what the outcome is going to be. When somebody loses thousands of dollars on a bet on a fight that they just knew so-and-so is going to win, that frustration, that's reality hitting you in the face.
Yep. I'm
And you
usually
like the way
I
it
don't see a
feels.
path for this guy to win. And then he wins. And it's and so, so often we talk about the red pill in these grandiose terms as if we figured it out. And just like the original reference in the Matrix, that it's become, it's this thing that you take one time and you're good. And I think that also has a degree of what's the word? Just like a misnomer about the red pill and being
Almost
red
an
pill.
oversimplification.
Yes.
But in its defense, when you look at the path that the movie takes, every single time he has an expectation, it's being reset over and over and over and over again. After Neo takes the red pill and Morpheus is saying, hey, you know, we're going to go down this rabbit hole, right? There are lots of twists and turns to the rabbit hole. There's a reason why they call it the rabbit hole, which is a nod to Alice from Wonderland, right? Mm-hmm. There are several different phases to that film where there's an expectation and reality is warped in so many different ways. And when she thinks that, you know, she's gotten away and survived this one thing, she goes into this other really crazy place that, you know, is divorced from the reality that she knew in a different way. So she's given a constant negative reinforcement of the things that she believed in, the system that she believed that she lived in. And when you look at Neo, and every time that he jacks in and out of the Matrix, he's got red pill moments happening over and over and over again in the real, you know, in the Matrix, but also in the real world constantly. There's always something where his expectations and the way that he perceives reality is constantly tested throughout the film and the film series.
So if somebody is not familiar with this concept outside of the movie, or has this idea of it being what we were talking about before, with you just want to be like this quote unquote alpha where you think you're better than all women, and if that's what somebody thinks the red pill is, then what kind of things outside of dating, romance, like today, would you say are red pill moments for, obviously not everybody, but what types of things are red pilling people?
I did mention some really hard hitting topics later on in that video.
You want me to let it roll? Or
yeah, you let it roll because I made sure to hit certain things. Yeah,
absolutely.
Not long ago, I thought I had a friend of a long, long time, and I realized that I valued this person a lot more than they valued me. That was a red pill moment. When you get hired at a company and they tout their company culture and how they're welcoming and how they're, you know, everybody's a team player and that the employer respects you, and you put on their uniform and you wear that uniform proudly, you put your name tag on there, you know, if you're a customer facing employee, you show that there is a pride in your work attached to this company. You wear those company colors proudly. But over time, you start to see that what was sold to you was a facade, that there's a lot of politics. The manager's playing favorites. They're telling you lies that if you work just a little bit harder, you'll get that promotion. And then you talk to somebody who's been there for several years and you say, oh yeah, they tell it to everybody. That's not real. That's not really how things get done here. That loss of fervor when you realize that the employer doesn't give a shit about you.
Doesn't give a fuck.
That's a red pill moment. That politician that you root for, when you find out that they don't know that you exist, nor do they care, they just want your vote. And that disenfranchised feeling, that's a red pill moment. But on the flip side, you know, there are other moments as well, where you find out that the world is not as dreary and gloomy as you were led to believe. That too is a red pill moment. When you believe that all of these members of the opposite sex are so horrible, and then you meet someone or some ones that aren't that way, and then you see the world through a different lens, that's also red pill. You see what I'm getting at here, people? The world is presented to you in a certain way. And many times, it's just a facade, it's a projection. People will tell you that things are black and white, often varying shades of gray. For some people that have no hope, they find religion, that's a red pill moment. For some people, when they find out that religion's bullshit, that's a red pill moment. But what do you do with that? What do you do once you've gone down the rabbit hole and then you find out what life really is. Like, what do you do then? That is going to be the mark of your character. And that's where the red pill rage comes from. You find out that things aren't what you thought they are, and to hell with everybody, fuck everybody, I'm going my own way. Or you can continue to seek information. You can understand what reality is and then find your place in that reality. Sometimes that red pill is going to be a positive thing. Sometimes it adds a burden. But you always have the power to decide what you're going to do with the information once the curtain gets pulled back and you find that reality is not what you thought it was.
Now, I find it amazingly poignant that you brought up the concept of religion, either finding religion or coming away from religion. Either of those could be a red pill moment. And I think that is super important for someone like me who would be talking about this stuff. You would assume that the only thing that I would accept as the red pill moment is finding out that what I believed growing up from the church, this, that is false. And that, I'm, that's it only flows in one direction. What's up, Snuggles? But as you accurately pointed out, and I really like, is that there's some people who maybe have been living in a way that has been based on just some bullshit, one way or the other. I mean, I was a drug addict when I was in my 20s, and that was a bullshit way of living. I was bullshitting the way that I lived. And coming to the point where I was like, okay, we're either going to be a drug addict or we got to do something about this. That was a red pill moment. And I think it's more, again, while I think that the dating, the women, that aspect of the red pill YouTube industry is easily sensationalized and gets a lot of views. I mean, am I going overboard and saying it's hurting the concept of the red pill and it's hurting men by focusing in on the wrong things?
No, I don't think that it is the wrong things. I think that the things that are important to you in life, they're important to you. And I think that when you have men who have been silenced for several decades, you've had men who their entire lives, they're young enough and old enough for their entire lives to never have a voice in the public square. Any of their concerns in modern society are quickly silenced, quickly shouted down, quickly what about? Mm-hmm. They get hit with that whataboutism. They get hit with that, well, it's bad that these things are happening to you, but that one guy violated that one girl in 1972. So all of your, all of your concerns in life, we don't care and they're not important. And I think that so many guys have been silenced for so long and have had their place in society basically washed away, their importance to society washed away. That need for intimacy, and it is a need. It is not a want. Absolutely. It is a need.
Absolutely.
When you do not get that, that becomes a priority. That problem in your life becomes a priority. So for a lot of women, it's easy to ignore that because they get a lot of sexual and non-sexual attention, and they don't really have to work for it. So they a lot of times they take it for granted. But when you're talking about males that really have not gotten affection from the time they popped out of their mom, that need doesn't go away because they've never had it or they don't get enough of it. There's this perception of men. There's a blue pill perception of men that men have no feelings. We nothing affects us. Mm-hmm. You can't hurt us. The things that you do that are cruel, it's okay because you did it to a man. That's a blue pill because that's not reality. And if you just observe reality and you look at a lot of crimes of despair and crimes of passion, men lead the way. So men are emotional. In fact, I would posit that men are infinitely more emotional than women, and you can see it in the outcomes that we have in modern society. People don't end the lives of others or themselves because everything is going well. They do that because things are not going well. And when you look at the self-termination rates of men as opposed to women, you see that wide gap and disparity. I would hope that that would be a red pill moment for you, where you look at the plight of men in modern society, and this is in and out of dating.
Yeah. So real quick though, I'm just to play devil's advocate, and since we are exploring the core tenet of the red pill itself, and not and the fact that that's different from the manosphere, the way that you framed your red pill video really doesn't and shouldn't, I think, well done, but it doesn't exclude any type of gender or sexuality or anything like that. So if somebody is, if somebody's watching this, like, who only knows of the FNF frauds and Kevin Samuels, and they want to see, okay, what do these guys think that the red pill really is? And we are here to say that just because you are a woman doesn't mean that the red pill, that concept, is irrelevant to you. What is an example of something that would be maybe not necessarily even specific to women, but applicable and relevant to women, that they need to be red pilled just as much as anybody else?
The thing that stands out to me the most, I used to, when I was 19, I dated this wildly attractive, and I was not attractive at all. So it shocked a lot of people, right? And in my dealings with her, I really got to see the world through her eyes. And it really hits me that being physically attractive is not all it's, chalked up to be. A lot of people think that their lives are super easy, that, they never have to work for anything. They never have to struggle. And when you actually look at reality, it is very, very different. And many physically attractive women they're not really heard in the way that they need to be heard in modern society. And I got to see that play out over the time that I was intimately involved with her. Very recently, I got hit with a red pill moment because somebody that I'm close to is wildly attractive, and they're dating somebody who is wildly wealthy. And you look at the issues and it's like, yeah, they're not immune to any of the things that the rest of us are going through, just because they have all of the things that on paper they're checking off all the boxes.
Right.
So a lot of times, really attractive women, they're looked at as having like these fabulous lives, but they go through their entire life not knowing if anybody gives a shit about them at all beyond what the fuck they look like. So somebody ends up in a situation where, they're maimed in some way. All of a sudden now it's over. Did you hear about that Russian model lady who's making her rounds, and she's upset because men don't find her attractive anymore, but she was at the top of the game. She was at the top of the game for a really long time, and she got all the attention because she was so beautiful. But now that she's in her 50s, and now she sees, oh, these guys really only value the beauty and the youth and all these things. Now she wants to fight to change society, to try to force attractive, powerful men to be attracted to older women. We need to change how men see women. Older women are just as attractive as younger women. That lashing out, that temper tantrum that she's, going on, all of this whole media thing that she's done over the last year or so. That's her in her red pill rage. When she talked about how she goes to a party where she used to have everybody look at her, and now guys are excusing themselves to go chase after somebody half her age, that's a red pill moment for her. She thought the world was one way. She thought she was so special. And then she found out that she's special because she was age 24. She was age 19. But when you get to 50, 55, 58, and then you find out what the world really is, that's her being red pilled.
And so, again, I want to make sure that we are, because I think that between what I talk about and what you talk about, Mela, I'm going to drop the link if you would like to come up and talk about whatever you think is relevant. Please do so. But I saw you had a question mark, so I'd love to hear what the question was. But it's that's still kind of framed in the same similar type of way that it's like, oh, women got women when they're young, you got to do this, and then you're old and you messed up by not. And while that's fair, and I do agree with the general sentiment there.
No, I'm saying not necessarily that they messed up.
No,
but the perception of why they were valuable was turned on its ear.
And then
they get the real reality, and you're like, damn, it's really like that. Because remember, when she was younger, she took full advantage of her youthful beauty. Now she's on the other side, and now she sees what she did not see when she got all of the attention from all of the men who were movers and shakers that had power and influence and resources, right? Now she's having her eyes opened up, and she's not happy about it. And that's a red pill moment for her. Now, what she chooses to do with that information is up to her. Just like I said previously, she wants to take that information and she wants to rewrite. She wants to rewrite human instinct, and that's how she's reacting to the information that she's gotten. But everybody has that choice to react to whatever they have the choice to react to whatever information they get, and then what you do with it is squarely on you.
Definitely. So, Mela, is it? I hope I have that correctly. We saw the thinking face in and you said you saw the video. So what did you think? Are we circling something you agree with? Do you disagree? Where do you stand on all this? You're muted right now. Just need to unmute yourself.
Hello.
There we go. How you doing, Mela?
Hello there.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
I'm terrific, just like you are. All right.
Hey,
I like that. So yeah, what do you think about what we're talking about? Oh, and she's gone. Well, Mela, the link is still there if you'd like to come back in.
Yeah, when I run live streams, I have like people are trying to join and then they drop out and they have to like try to jump in again. It happens.
Well, like I said, the link is there. You are welcome. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. But yeah, if you want to come back in, I'm definitely I want to hear what you have to say, because yes, I do feel like this red pill mentality has gotten away from the core things that we're talking about right now, the core things that you talked about in your video. And because of the sensationalism that's available through talking about just the dating aspects of it, which are not unimportant, but are just sexier. They're going to get more views. They're going to get more clicks.
Are you familiar with the Lapeef network?
Oh, we got Mela back. I have, but yeah, well, Mela, we lost you.
Yeah.
And we found you.
Can you hear us?
There's some type of connection. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Yep,
that's
you're
terrific.
coming in clear.
Okay, I appreciate that. There are probably towers with connection issues nearby. So the topic is really interesting. Red pill has become a term that I've been made familiar with over the last few years. And,
what do you think about
I'm glad you're discussing it. think that it started out with the good intention of men teaching men under the umbrella of a support system, because I find the family court to be just oh my God, the family court is so unfair against men. It's just
Reach.
it's more than unfair. It's atrocious, and there are men that lose their licenses, their passports, their freedom, for God's sakes, by imprisonment. It's just all they lose their children, and it's really, it really doesn't have to get that doggone crazy. I think that the politicians, they just erred on the side of giving women the benefit of the doubt in terms of the family court system. However, what has occurred is that a lot of women, no matter what ethnicity they are, they have exploited the loopholes to such a degree that Black men are not even interested in wholesome relationships anymore. And so I thought, when I heard about this this gathering of men, I think they call it the manosphere in different spaces, and then I'm hearing about peels and all the types of distinguished terms, terms that differentiate one another as to what umbrella they're under. Right. I was like, okay, well, at least they're trying to get together and make sense of how to improve, their position and sanity, and that's a good thing. Improvement is a good thing. That's what I thought it was about. And then I started hearing the hate speech. The hate speech, for God's sakes. I started hearing hate speech after hate speech after hate speech. And before I knew it, I started getting involved with those, those really deep-heated, sometimes, most times, oftentimes, conflictual conversations. I wanted to get back, when you give me permission to talk about the model that realized that when she turned 50, that being cute just ain't.
Before you go there,
it's not gonna cut. It's not gonna cut it for her anymore.
ma'am. What I just want to cut, because I want to address what you just said, because that is like really super duper important. When you're talking about, like, you're hearing about hate speech, right? I think what you're seeing is the opposite of hate. What you're seeing is a lot of these guys there's like a last ditch, like them voicing their frustrations are their last ditch before they either do something drastic or they give up entirely. When you were saying that Black men are no longer interested in wholesome relationships, if you poll Black men, the vast majority are very interested in wholesome relationships. The thing is that modern society rewards women for doing unwholesome things. So the people who appear to be winning are the Nicki Minaj's of the world and those that ilk, right? And a lot of Black men don't have faith that the women that they want to wife up are wifeable. And then the second part is even if you do find a woman who is of that ilk, there are incentives, there are government and corporate incentives for them to switch up. And so even if a man really is into a woman and thinks that he can go the distance with her, he has to contend with the fact that there are a lot of elements that are trying to separate her from him. And 99 times out of 100, he's going to pay the dear cost price. If he comes home and finds another man in his bed with his woman and they get divorced, she's taking half of the things he earned. Like, there really aren't many legal protections for men. So when, again, there's so many obstacles to men getting those wholesome relationships that you're seeing guys lose hope, and then now they're staying away from the relationships to protect themselves, not because they're not interested.
What do you think about that, Mel? Oh, you're breaking up a little.
It's a fair I'm sorry. It's a fair assessment. My bad. I don't know if I
Yeah,
can get through this
I think
technologically.
yeah, I think absolutely. Sorry, go ahead.
It's a fair assessment. That's my response.
And I think it's even gracious of you to even take that as a fair assessment, because a lot of women
are not listening.
Right.
The fact that you were able to hear what I said means that the red pill community is doing its job.
And it is not that the end of the conversation. I think that is
It's the
where
start.
Right. And I will not neither of us, me or Dr. Evil will not. Go ahead. What'd you say, Mel?
I really want to hear what she has to say.
Were you going to go, Mel? I was just going to say that, I think there's a number of specific channels. There's a number of ideas that both Dr. Evil, myself, and many other guys in the manosphere who would reject these individual specific ideas that, may or may not be technically considered hate speech, but what you're probably referring to, which as a woman you probably don't like hearing, that we would all be like, we don't subscribe to that. And that,
I think it's more frustration speech.
Right.
Because women use the same type of charged language as we do, but they don't get hit with the same hate speech. They'll say all men are this, all men are that, all black men are this, they say believe all women in all these things, right? They use a lot of umbrella terms, but it's not.
Even beyond that, simple things like, I mean, if we want to even bring it to as far as traditional gender roles, that I personally believe that a relationship is most likely to succeed if people are exhibiting, playing out there. There you go. The typical traditional gender roles. However, to say that a couple where the woman is, the breadwinner and she's got a little bit more of a quote unquote alpha personality, the guy's a little bit more laid back and he's just chilling, and he stays home and takes care of the kids. If we're saying that, or not, if somebody is saying that can't happen or that's wrong, that's where I diverge. And I think that right there really highlights the difference between what we're talking about when we say red pill and when we're talking about the manosphere. Because while they are somewhat two sides of the same coin, not always, but in many respects, they are two sides of the same coin. They're not the same thing. And not everybody who is red-pilled agrees with what's going on in the manosphere, and certainly not everybody who's in the manosphere is red-pilled. And I think the important aspect that we're really trying to focus on is that, while dating is relevant to this idea of coming to terms with a false belief that you've been believing, and coming to terms with the reality of the fact that it is, in fact, a false belief. That's really what the red pill has to do with. Because if you remember, back in 1999, when the Matrix came out, where this really, I don't know if that was the first time that red pill, blue pill was ever used as a metaphor. But the way just the political landscape simply was not anything like it is today as we use that. And then we come to find out that the Wachowski sisters were using that as a metaphor for being trans and all that. I mean, they're the creators of the movie. You cannot say that, that's some ad hoc retcon, but they are the creators. So if that's what they say they meant by it, then unless you have an email where it says, nah, definitely not, that's what we meant by it, we're just going to say that now because it's 2022. Unless you bring out that, then I'm going to go by their word and say that is what the entire movie of The Matrix is about, being trans. Fine. That's not how I interpreted it.
I mean, they stole the story from a woman, a black woman. They stole it and had to pay her $1 billion. They didn't even write that story.
I am not aware of this at all.
Yeah,
Please
they had to
educate
pay
me.
out $1 billion to the woman that actually wrote the story because they stole her IP and then passed it off as if, they wrote it themselves. And that's simply not true. And they had to pay her out $1 billion for stealing her. So, again, they put their name on those films, on those 3 films, and they used brothers. That's what they did, and it wasn't even their story to begin with. So,
So so where the trans aspect of the red pill, blue pill, the whole Matrix story, was that something that they injected from the story they stole, or was that originally something in the story that they stole?
there was nothing remotely out of the ordinary about the depiction of sexuality in any of the first 3 films. Now, in the disaster that was that, I really want to.
Right.
I really wish that didn't exist, and I'm going to try.
I actually didn't mind it, but
It was
the new one you're talking about.
Yeah, that's actually the lowest rating I've ever given any feature-length film. I gave it the lowest rating of any film I've ever watched in my life. It is truly the worst movie I've ever seen.
I'm gonna give you full screen while I gotta take a piss and let you go off on that.
I'm not going to go off on it, but the radical departure from the original storyline, nothing really tied in or made sense. The whole thing with Morpheus didn't make sense. The whole thing with the creator did not make sense. And it was very clear from the beginning they had an agenda, but they did not have an effective vehicle for the agenda. They wasted a lot of opportunities of the actors and actresses that they were able to get to reprise earlier roles, such as the Merovingian. That was I don't really have words for just how horrible the writing, the storytelling, the progression of the film. There's nothing about it made sense, and the only thing that I really came away with is that they really, really, really want you to know that the future is female, and men are useless. Again, I just have a real problem with films, blockbuster films, that puts agenda ahead of plot and writing. Also, a special demerit goes to the choreography. The fight choreography was horrendous. I mean, I sat. Put it this way: I had a friend come over and watch it with me and my family.
We're talking specifically about the new one?
Yes.
Okay.
The only reason why he came to my house to watch it is because he wanted to watch us react as we suffered.
Okay.
Because he knew we were gonna. He had already seen it, and he's like, "Now I'm gonna get." Basically, he got his entertainment off our backs. So because it was so bad.
So how is that? How is that? And I'm I was doing my business, so apologies. But how is that directly relevant to if we're again? I'm trying to. So is the concept of the Wachowski brothers as
they presented themselves,
right. Was
yeah.
that so that seems like a very practical thing to just act as men in a male dominated industry, and so is it like straight up retconning the whole thing to say that it was about being trans?
Yeah, because the thing is, sexuality was really never a focal point in any way, shape, form, or fashion in the film.
Right.
And even when it was introduced, it was extremely heteronormative. You saw nothing out of the ordinary You saw absolutely nothing. There was no, like, you could see that they used I think the original writer, there was a lot of callbacks to the Bible. So a lot of,
Yes. Yep.
there was a lot of religious symbolism in the film. And I very much doubt, especially in that era, that a black woman who actually wrote the concept was thinking about trans anything. Nobody was thinking about trans anything in 1999. So if you could point to anything in the film that was even adjacent, if you can point to anything that's even adjacent, then I can stretch it and then give it. But there was nothing even remotely adjacent to it whatsoever.
And I think that's really fair. And I personally as just the wide umbrella of art and interpretation and whatever, and like the analogy and the metaphor that we use politically of red pill and blue pill, whether it's in politics or in dating, they are apt enough analogies or metaphors that whatever the original meaning from the original writers of the Matrix meant, I don't really care, because I'm trying to discuss a phenomenon, a way of thinking, and so that works. And so when it comes out that the original Matrix was not from the Wachowski brothers, but Wachowski sisters, and it's about trans, like I don't really take the time to fight against that, because it doesn't really change how I think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But is that just straight up liberal propaganda?
That fourth film? Absolutely.
No.
Without
The idea that the original Matrix film was a story about the red pill being accepting who you are as a trans person versus taking the blue pill and living as your biological whatever the fuck you know what I mean.
Just
because I mean, again, I didn't read anything directly. I'm just going on third, fourth hand accounts, and I'm trying to be gracious and not be bigoted. You know, this is the world that we live in.
This is the world, But again, like I don't. You know, my opinions on any of this is immaterial. What I can tell you is that I've watched the first three films over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and there's nothing even remotely adjacent. And there's so much biblical symbolism. There's a lot of political symbolism in there. There's just simply nothing. There's simply nothing in the films. I mean, if you talk to any trans person on planet Earth, they're not hailing the Matrix as their coming out party. Nobody made that connection, period.
Yeah. No, nobody.
So I think it's extremely disingenuous. And I think that they were trying to do the opposite of get woke, go broke, and try to use that as a vehicle.
Get broke first.
They were trying to get people to watch the movie on modern moral superiority grounds. And if you look at anything that they try that approach with, it doesn't work. Like the WNBA, like they say, hey, equal pay and all this other stuff, but the people that are screaming for them to make more money, they don't watch any of the games. They don't buy tickets. They don't buy concessions. They don't watch on ESPN. They don't support the sport at all. They just think they should just get millions of dollars because LeBron James does. But the thing is that a lot of these ideals, they sound nice, but they cost money. So the thing is that, it sounds good to say it's about this, but most people, even though one side of the socio-political spectrum is dominating the conversation in the public square, it still does not reflect in where people are choosing to spend their money, including those who are ideologically aligned with many of those talking points. Those people don't go out and support with their dollars the works of art or whatever principle that they say that they stand for. They don't go out and then follow that ideology with actions. We're proactive. money spending. So a lot of these movies end up flopping. Yeah, it's a lot of virtue signaling, but then they go on and they spend their money where they spend it, and that's their right. But the thing is that, you know, you didn't get a whole lot of people that instantly loved the movie because they said, "Oh, it's about trans." Like people still hated the movie, not because it had anything to do with trans, is because
which is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's one of the worst blockbuster movies in the history of film, and that's the problem.
I honestly didn't think it was that unenjoyable. I thought it was a bad movie. I didn't think it was that unenjoyable. But as snooty as I can be, like when it comes to movies and TV, I think that, you know, it was enjoyable enough for the runtime. But the comparing, even
if the fight choreography was decent, then I would be real with you. But like, and the thing is, remember, the first Matrix set a high bar,
right?
But the choreography was so bad. I thought that we were going to see something mind blowing because they had the CGI technology from 20 years ago. So you're thinking with the technology that there is today, they're going to fuck our minds up.
Backwards.
And you know what they did? They just threw a bunch of colors on the screen. It was just a bunch of moving objects, you know, in the warehouse scene where they're all they wasted the Merovingian. Like when I heard that the Merovingian was going to be in the film, I was so excited because he's one of my favorite characters in the second and third films. And you don't even remember seeing the motherfucker in the film.
No, I don't.
Because they made him a homeless guy. That was a fucking bum for no reason.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I mean? The writing is terrible. Right.
Oh, yeah.
But if you look at the scene that they're supposed to have like all of these people in this fight, you can't pay attention to anything. There's nothing to see there. Yeah. And so if the fight choreography was good, then I would probably give it a 5. But the fight choreography was so bad. I gave it a 2 out of 5, a 2.5 out of 10. It's the lowest film rating I've given to any film ever. And I only give it a 2.5 because there's a lot of effort to make a film go up on the screen, and you get credit for that. But the writing was terrible. The plot was terrible. The continuity was non-existent. And the fight choreography was garbage.
Actually, now that I think about it,
that was a red pill moment for me because I expected that the fight choreography and the CGI was going to be on a level that was going to blow my mind. It was almost like the first time you've done a drug and then you're thinking maybe the next time it's going to be as good, and it falls short, and then it falls short.
Never is.
And it falls short, right? This was like probably your first time hitting cocaine, right? And then you go again, and then you try to snort water to get the same high. Right?
I mean,
like you get absolutely nothing
honestly,
from it.
It's just like doing another line of cocaine, asking, hoping that it's just as good as the first.
No, but
up your RAM here. Couldn't agree with you more. Lazy writing, lazy everything, replaying parts of the past films. That was the worst part. Just like literally playing parts of the old movies. And I think part of it was that because the bar was set so high with at least the first one. Maybe not. There's argument about the quality of either of the sequels, but certainly the original was a cult classic. It was phenomenally done. It was unique. It was all of this stuff. And if you're saying it was stolen by the Wachowski brothers at that time, I would definitely believe that. But either way, what we got out of it, I personally wasn't so disappointed. One, because I wasn't super into the sequels anyway. So like it was just another movie to me. Like the original.
That second film, I love that second film, and that's probably why the Merovingian was one of my very favorite characters, because if you look at that second film is nothing short of pageantry. When they step into the club, right? And because they're sent to go talk to the Merovingian about getting access to the key maker, right? And then they enter that club and everybody is in like leather. And, you know, it looks like some BDSM dungeon thing. And then they walk over to the table and you look at the spread and look how that motherfucker was dressed. I was like, damn.
Dripping.
Yo, for real. The style, the elegance. That's an elegant. The thing is, the whole progression is so elegant. But then you bring him back as that homeless bum that normally you find in Union Square that wears all of the tissue paper all over his body. Those that know New York City know who the fuck I'm talking about. And then they made him look like that guy? For what? And then in the fight choreography, they're taking time away from the fight that we already don't understand. And then they pan to this guy, and then you think he's going to do something epic. And then he sounded like some weirdo that's lost his mind for no reason. I don't know. And then you find out, you know what makes the film worse? You find out that a lot of the people who you wanted to see in the film were approached by people to do the film, wanted to do the film, but then they didn't want to pay them the money to do the film. Right? So the guy that I had his name on the tip of my tongue that played Agent Smith.
Yeah, I have no idea what his name is.
Why I forget this? Hugo Weaving, right? King of Union Square. Yes, they made him dress like that guy.
Hey, up your M. Would you have any interest in joining the panel and giving your thoughts? I will drop the link if you are interested.
Yeah, but you know it was you know, when you look at like all the cost cutting, and then you know. Have you watched the John Wick films?
I've seen the first two.
Okay, when you look at that scene, on the roof, when John Wick goes to talk to the leader of the Bowery, right? And he turns around and it's fucking Morpheus pretty much. I mean, you know, Lawrence Fishburne turns around and then there's dialogue between the two of them that's a callback to The Matrix. And it was obvious, right? It was obvious that they were. It was obvious that it was obvious that they were calling back to the Matrix films, right? So you know that Lawrence Fishburne would do that fourth film, but then not only is he not in the film, they don't even bother to try to make it make any kind of sense. Why he's not even in the flesh in the real life or in the Matrix. Right. So he's some other weirdo looking black guy because of course, according to white people, all black guys look the same, right? Right.
All right. Let's not go there. But, okay.
That's a callback to tonight's fight stream.
So before we you know, I don't want to bring too many things into this, but because we are talking about a specific you know, film, not trilogy, but series. I just, you know, when it comes to like the MCU, where do you stand just in terms of how you look at the Matrix film series versus the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What kind of comparisons do you make? What kind of similarities do you see? What kind of differences do you see?
I think that when you started to get into phase 3, you started to see a lot more wokeism, but the difference is that the choreography is great. The storyline progression is great until you reach Infinity War and Endgame, where there are some major plot holes. But they keep you on the edge of your chair, on the edge of your seat, because they always give you the feeling that there's huge gravity to what's happening. So even though they rushed through a couple of concepts that they could have slowed down, they could have made another movie and really made some money and told the whole story properly. But their progression is great. Their choreography is great. The CGI is on point. Everything makes sense. Even though there's a plot hole, you know what the connection is, right? So you can forgive the overly woke stuff that's in it because it's not too out of place and it's not too egregious in most situations. But when you look at that fourth Matrix effort, they did not they didn't even bother to. They don't even go to try to make much sense of Trinity. They just want you to know that she's superior to Neo. That's really what they want you to know.
She's
Is that she's
the one's one.
He can't fly anymore and he can't do anything and he's neutered and she's the strong one and she's the one that gets things done. There's so many modern tropes that they put in there that are so obvious to anybody who's actually paying attention. And the thing is, I could forgive all of that if you write a good story and it progresses properly, and then you have, a good quality film. And, if you want, girls to believe that they can aspire to being more than a housewife because of Trinity, be my fucking guest. But let me see a good film along with it.
Right. And I think, we can, if we were to aim our targets at the MCU, the MCU, not just Marvel comics, but the MCU, the existence of the Brie Larson Captain Marvel is completely irrelevant, completely woke fan service. However,
but I give them one credit. I thought it was going to be an anti-male bashing, and it wasn't. They threw a couple of moments in there, but for the most part, they stay on. For the most part, they stay on target.
Her whole thing, I mean, it's bad.
I boycotted the movie, and then one of my friends was like, "No, you should give it a chance." And then, several months ago, I watched it and I dissected it, and I was like, "Okay." Now, if you want to talk about Wonder Woman 84, we can have that discussion.
I've seen that
was a red pill moment for me.
That's why I didn't ask DC
because the first Wonder Woman movie was so good.
Yeah,
and they did feminism right in the first one.
Yep.
Oh my God, that second one.
I'm up to Aquaman. I'm up to Aquaman. So in DCEU. So no spoilers.
I didn't even bother because that was just to get.
Oh, that was fucking awesome. That was a great movie.
It was so obvious that they were just trying to get women's money and to moisten the nether regions.
Hey, bro.
Okay.
Hey,
I didn't even bother with that shit. Hey, I'm not the target demographic.
The only reason to boycott, and it's a grand reason to boycott Aquaman, is Amber Heard.
Oh, absolutely. I forgot about that too. That's 100%. No, I think there's a microwave going off in my background.
What's happening in my house? I don't know what that beeping is.
No, I mean, I got that Shure mic. You know what I'm saying? But I forgot about that part of it. But to me, I was not interested in the film. The Amber Heard thing, I will never watch a film that she's in, because if you want to talk about cancel culture, then you want to talk about domestic abuse. And then you find out that she lied on purpose and misrepresented things on purpose. And then she was admitting to it because she didn't think that she was being, again, this was a red pill moment, not for just a lot of men, but for a lot of women.
I just slammed the door into your face. I didn't.
Yeah, I broke your finger and I did this, right? Exactly. And the thing is, as a matter of fact, I think he had to have one of his fingers partially amputated because of the damage that she did to that finger. Right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think the biggest loss was really his fucking
career.
But
and then you find out she's the abuser and his career is still in the trash and she's still getting roles.
And people
So you want to tell me that it's about equality. No, it isn't. And the thing is, because Johnny Depp is such a sex symbol among women, that ended up being a red pill moment for a lot of women, because they got to see a guy that they're truly interested in getting the shaft that all men have been getting for the last 45, 50 years.
To bring it full circle, why this is why the dating and manosphere talks and aspect of the red pill. I would say the red pill is something, and the manosphere
as a subgenre of the manosphere. Yes.
And the reason that I think it plays out that way is because the red pill, as you were talking about in your video, is about coming to terms with reality, whatever that may be. And because when it comes to dating and romance and whatever, that generations, let's say 3 generations at least, have been under this spell of what romance really is by Disney movies and all that, all of that stuff. and then the third wave feminism coming in and telling women that you don't need no man and you're strong and independent and all that good stuff, all that great, fantastic stuff. That's why it is relevant, and it's so not ubiquitous, but relevant when it comes to stuff that we're talking about, the red pill. Again, I want to thank you for your video, because as Mela said earlier, she needed to hear that the red pill and the manosphere function as two different groups. And
you know what's funny about that, Mello?
I don't think she's still here. There's an older
I had a question in my mind that when I saw that, I started to question myself. The channels that talk about sports, that's manosphere, isn't it? Because these are when you go to the places where they talk about.
Well,
because men care about sports. Why do you think we do 50 casual?
If I understand the question, you're asking, is that manosphere because it is geared towards
men, right?
Or is manosphere something that is not only geared towards men, but also XYZ? That's the way I hear your question. Is that kind of what you're asking?
No, what I'm saying is when you talk about red pill functioning as a subgroup or a sub ideology or a sub branding, but it's not interchangeable. It's not synonymous.
Right.
Then I start thinking about the manosphere as a term, and it's like, what is a manosphere? It's an environment that revolves around men, right? If you look at the people that love MMA, the vast majority are men. And men congregate and they enjoy fellowship around MMA. Then you got the hockey guys and you have the NBA guys and the football guys, right? So it's like shit. In some ways,
part of these,
right. Those are all manosphere type environments, right?
Well, I would say no, because they are not. They happen to be more populated by male viewers, but they're not aimed at male viewers. They're aimed at whoever is interested in what this is. And so when you're talking about this is how to
disagree with that.
This is how to deal when you're talking about this is how to deal with a woman who's doing XYZ. That is aimed at men. And many women like it. How many women watch Kevin Samuels? Lots.
But that's my point. I mean, you just made my point for me. Even though it's not aimed toward them, they're still part of the community.
Well, but
it's still male-centric, male-focused.
I think I'm making a different point entirely, in that just because it's dominated by men does not make it inherently manosphere. I think it has to be targeted at men.
Sports are targeted at men.
Right.
It's one of the few things in society targeted at men.
Right. But can a woman watch the average Barstool Sports or fucking Ariel Helwani interview and feel like they're excluded, or feel like they are not the target?
They're not the target demographic. Right. Absolutely.
Well, but I would disagree, because if they are MMA fans with Ariel Helwani, then they absolutely are the target demographic.
But you just provided a counter to your own argument when you said that there are a bunch of female fans of Kevin Samuels.
Right.
Even though he's talking to men.
Right. So I'm saying they are fans of Kevin Samuels, despite the fact that he is directing his content for. And
I believe it's the same thing about sports, because the vast majority of women do not give a flying fuck. And the way that they advertise sports is geared towards men. The way that they advertise sports to kids is geared towards boys, because of our rambunctious physical nature. We have a very physical way of competing with each other, and that is that. Now, women are attracted to men who speak that language and speak it well. Like, women love fighters, they love professional athletes. All of them have groupies. But is NBA content aimed at women? Absolutely not. Because women don't care whether, Michael Jordan is the GOAT or LeBron James. They don't care. I mean, they care that they make a lot of money and they want access to those resources, but the actual content is definitely male-centric.
No, and that's the differentiation I'm making, is male-centric versus aimed at men versus women. You see what I mean?
No, but I don't think that it needs to be a versus. It just needs to resonate. So, when I talk to women about sports, I always get like this yucky But the thing is like, do you not understand that cooperation and working towards a unified goal? Because, women are generally known for being more cooperative than we are. We're more like individualistic, more directly competitive, right? And the thing is, like, when you look at any team sport, you would think that the concept would resonate with women because you have one group of people who are working together and they use a lot of emotional glue too with these sports teams to move things along in the same direction to have success. And women are really, really good at that. You would think that the majority of women, because they would see that connection to their own lives. But the vast majority of women do not give a fuck because of the expression of that cooperation. That doesn't speak to them the way it speaks to us. Now, you do have outliers. You have, like, I once dated a woman not that long ago that judged me on my sports fandom. I was in love. Okay. But the thing is, she is the outlier. She's not what you should expect, right? You should expect somebody to watch Real Housewives of garbage, of trash can, the Real Housewives of a trash compactor, right? You should expect that, right? But to expect a woman to be like, hey, so, this and that happened, they're going to be like, what? I don't care. That's a boys thing, So if you want to talk about how video games have changed, that is definitely debatable because it used to be just aimed at boys. Comic book used to be just aimed at boys, and it's not that way anymore.
I think that is. I'm not very I'm not very relevant. What's the fucking word? Come on, help me out. I'm not really in that space, but
Right.
I would love to have that conversation. But I do think it is a little bit of a separate conversation.
Right. It is. Yeah.
So I do think, this is. I think this is a good place to put a bow on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you again for putting out that video because, again, as Mila said, Mela, as Mela said, that she needed to hear the difference between the red pill and the manosphere. Even as a woman, I think there's very a significant portion of men who also need to know that, and maybe are are following content in the manosphere or following red pill content for whatever. But
understand that red pill is a concept.
Right.
It is a function of perception. It is not a dating thing. It's
Right.
a function of how you perceive the world around you and your place in the world. It's another version of proprioception, if anybody is familiar with that terminology. Your perception of yourself and your body in space. So, I think that there's a branding, a capital letter R and a capital letter P as a branding. But the actual concept, if we focus on the concept, there is a lot of value for people because I think that women are going through red pill rage in a lot of different ways. And they may not be acutely aware of the fact that some of the things in society that they were led to believe aren't true, especially people who fall in love with political opponents. There are a lot of Joe Biden haters on the left right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And there are a lot of people who are unhappy with Donald Trump after January 6, 2021. So on the right, there are a lot of people on the right that were not happy with him. And there were a lot of people that supported him. And then they're like, oh, my God, I can't believe that he would, suborn such an insurrection on our country, on our. There were a lot of people on the right. My co-host on the Talkin Shit podcast, Captain Paul, being one of those conservatives. Not happy with that. So people have the rug pulled out from underneath their feet on a variety of topics that are important to them on the daily basis, and to understand that you're not the only person going through it is super duper important. And hopefully when there's a subject that's being spoken about that is not that important to you, you can call back to times where you were upset about something that you believed in that you found out wasn't really lining up with reality, and how upset you were at just the concept of being deceived. Sometimes people are just upset that they feel lied to, and that's what sends them over the edge. People love to lie. They don't like to be lied to.
Absolutely.
So, I think that, hopefully this is a subject and a video that when you think about it, if you're able to resonate and then you can empathize with somebody else, it can slow down your anger just long enough to actually hear their concerns. And now we can have real conversations.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. So I
Thanks
can't think
for
of a
having
better
me on.
I can't think of a better place to stop them there. So I will give you the floor. If you want to shout out all your channels, socials, all that stuff, the floor is yours.
Oh, well, wow, he put me on the spot here. Dr. Evil Genius, I do gaming videos and flow of consciousness, driving videos on my main channel. I'm one half of the Talking Shit podcast, which is on Twitch and YouTube. As a part of that podcast, we do Filthy Casual MMA watch party with Lutch as a de facto honorary host. So if you want to see more of Lutch on most Saturdays and you're an MMA fan, or you're not an MMA fan and you want to hear him try to draw me into a debate that I don't want to be a part of, definitely come by and check us out on the Talking Shit podcast on YouTube and Twitch. I'm also one half of Black Power Magic Hour on act.tv. So for you people who believe in leftist socioeconomics, I do a show there with Messiah Rhodes. The website being www.act.tv. Also, we're on Facebook and Twitch and YouTube at ACTDOT TV. Search us on YouTube and Twitch. And I look forward to having Lutch come by next week or whenever the next UFC event is. So thank you for hearing us out and kind of trying to make sense of the concepts, and I hope that it leads to more open conversations among all people, not just among the sexes.
Beautifully put. Beautiful. So I want to thank you again. If you, we like Dr. Evil Genius said, we do the filthy, or I go onto his platform of the Filthy Casual MMA watch party every Saturday that I can. And even if you're not an MMA fan, we do get into some stuff. I do my best to drag him into some stuff, and we have fun. So check that out. If you enjoyed this type of conversation, you can definitely check out the iDryB live playlist that I've got on my own channel. All that stuff is going to be there too. But please check out Dr. Evil Genius. Check out his channels. Check out the Talking Shit podcast and all that stuff. It really is good, and it is the basis of this conversation. So if you like where this is going, he was the genesis of this. So thank you again, sir. And I'll see you sooner than later. Take care. So, a very interesting conversation and a very interesting video done by Dr. Evil Genius at the Talking Shit podcast. And, he mentioned red pill rage. And that's something that, I felt like I wanted to dive into a little bit, because it's kind of something that, I'm not going to go on too long, but it's kind of something that I've experienced multiple times in my life without really realizing what it was. So if you don't know, now you know, I'm an atheist. I am a very strongly held atheist. I'm very strong in that opinion. And there was a time when I first came to that opinion, having grown up Catholic, that I was very angry about the lies that I was told as a kid. And I felt it my mission to go around and be the stereotypical militant atheist guy yelling at this person, that person, da 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 da. And I just it wasn't it wasn't helpful. And then when it came to the political side of things, I wasn't really that involved with stuff before the Obama era. I remember I was in college when he was elected. It was a random Tuesday night, and I was walking. I was smoking some weed at a friend's dorm room, and I was walking back, and I was like, "Why are all these people outside?" And turns out, the first black president of the United States has been elected. I had no clue, and so that's how ignorant I was, and I didn't get too much more informed until the Trump era, in which I was told that things would fall apart, the world would be destroyed if this man became the president. And so I felt like I had to fight with everything I could to prevent that from happening, and I failed. But then the world didn't fail. And so I do definitely have to disagree that when a man who is the sitting president says we want peace and things like that, and then people who are fervent followers of that man decide to go against what he's saying and do things. As somebody who dislikes Trump as a person and does not think that he does well in the Oval Office, I don't think we can put January 6th on him, period. But that's not really super relevant to the concept of the red pill. And so just to again tie a bow on that, I think the most useful part of Dr. Evil Genius's video, the most poignant aspect of the talking shit video on what is the red pill is separating it from the manosphere, as we've talked about a number of times before, because they're not the same thing. And while there is overlap, and while there is a reason to be involved in both, if you think they're the same thing, you've got things twisted, and you're just not getting the point behind either one. Saying they put their frustration, and I understand that. I'm not. That's why I'm not saying like, oh, how could you? How dare you put it on Trump? Well, obviously, they were followers of Trump. They believed that the election was not done properly. I don't believe the election was as foolproof as we are made to believe it was, whether it was this one or the one before that or the one before that. Some of you are too young to remember the hanging chads of 2000, but election security has never been a 100% thing. And so I didn't really even think that there was some fuckery afoot until we're like, nope, this was perfectly fine. Every election in history has had its issues, but this one, no, this one's good. And Joe Biden is the most popular politician ever. Whatever. I don't really think it's super relevant whether that's super true or whether every detail of that is what everybody thinks. I think the point really comes down to the truth. What we want is the truth. And when you are committed to living your life based on objective, observable reality, then you are far less subject to any type of propaganda or anything like that. And you're not subject to it, but you're just aware of the kind of lies that can be put out and the degree to which people will lie to get what they want. And it's likely that whatever level you think the average professional person will lie to, it's up here. Whatever I think I know, it's right here. It's probably here. This evil really has no end. And I mean, this is exactly why I don't really like. Are we really saying Trump was the second most popular president? Like, a lot of people hated him. So, again, I don't really, we can have a conversation about election integrity, but I mean, I just again, I find it odd that that Biden was among the very few Democrats who actually got such a big sweep, and that there was a lot of red, and there was a big red wave, but a lot of leftists or just lefties or Democrat, whatever you want to call them. I'm not trying to put any people in a box. I'm just saying the not Trump people were saying, oh, they stole they're saying they stole the election and they couldn't even get him in the White House. Well, yes, because the idea was that they're not, people aren't voting down, people are voting down party or not voting down party lines, just that simply. And the idea of the mail-in voting, and you have an entire generation of 18, 19 to 25-year-old kids who are living at home, and all their parents say, here's this thing, you got to fill this out, you got to vote. Those are people who otherwise would not have voted, and they're just listening to their parents. And that's just one tiny aspect. And here's something that me and Dr. Evil Genius absolutely 1000% agree about, and this is why, no matter what you think of his policies or her policies, Donald Trump cannot effectively be in the White House. He just cannot. He can have the best policies ever, but people's reactions to him are too drastic, and that is just not conducive to leading the country. But again, I'm going off on a tangent, and what I really wanted to highlight again was the aspect of the red pill, and how it's not about a bunch of guys saying, a bunch of incel shit like, oh, these women are blah, 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 and we should blah, 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 blah. There's an aspect of the red pill. There's an aspect that's called the manosphere, and there's an aspect of the manosphere that is centered on what women do wrong and why and how that negatively affects men in dating. And I think those things are very relevant and very real. But it's just one small part of what's going on. And if you really want to either determine or categorize being red-pilled as a bad thing, or that you want to be red-pilled, then you need to understand that it's a much grander thing than getting laid, than sticking it to these modern women who think they're da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, if that's what you think, more you're allowed to think whatever the fuck you want, but there's a lot more of us who are not about that, and there's a lot more of us who are about improving the general life of this country, its individual parts and its community aspects as well. And again, some would argue that you need to look in different places, but I am here to say that the first place you need to look is in the mirror. The first place you need to look is at yourself and figure out what the fuck is wrong with you, because I guarantee you're not perfect, because I'm not either. And if I'm not perfect, you sure shit ain't. Figure out what the fuck you got to fix up. Jordan Peterson says, clean up, make your bed, clean up your room, and then worry about the economy. So with that, I want to thank Dr. Evil Genius for hanging out. Anirudh was here for a little bit. He had to go, but he was here as well. I definitely want to thank him as well. Anybody who was in the chat, Up Your Ram and Mela 2, Snuggles was here for a moment. I appreciate you guys, and I want to see you guys. I want to see you guys all every time I'm on. I want to see you guys in the chat, keeping me legit. If I'm talking shit, I need you right here, just like Dr. Evil Genius is doing right now, being like, yo, you're wildin'. And if you got the balls, then you can come up and say it to my face too, and we'll have a nice conversation. But if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. I just ask that you give a peek to some of the other stuff that I've got on here. If you're not aware of the actual the channel itself, I Didn't Read Your Book is the podcast that I host. It is a video podcast where I talk to authors about their books, which I have not read, so that I can act as a surrogate for you who assuming has not read their book, and we can talk about the concepts of their book and get to know the author behind the book to see if maybe that's something you're interested in. And then aside from that, I do a lot of stuff like this. I Drive Be Live, going on to Dr. Evil Geniuses and the Talking Shit podcast platform for the Filthy Casual. And I try to inject as much culture and politics in there as I can, even though if they really want to keep it on the MMA, I gotta shove it in there. And they are gracious enough to let me do that. Or you could just sit at home and think about how fucking awesome I am and how much you love me. If you all I ask is that you click the like button. If you're enjoying what you're watching, hit the subscribe and the bell. And if you really love it, there are some support links. Well, not yet, but there will be some support links in the description. If you could help me out, I would love to be able to bring you some more of this stuff. And that's the only way I'm going to do it. So that's what I've got. But again, if you just want to sit at home and think about how fucking awesome I am, I really am that awesome. So that's not a waste of time. Thank you guys, and I am out of here.